Pink Slip, Episode 2. Church folk can be the worst folk. So, I know it can be rather taboo to speak out against misconduct that takes place in the church, particularly black churches, because it is one of those places that we see as revered as so intricate with our history and what it represents, and because so many of us have that connection. But I participated in a lot of church activity growing up, and then voluntarily and willingly in my mid to later adult life. I am the kind of person, when I'm committed to something, I'm committed to it. And if this is what we are, this is what we profess to be, then let's be about it, But I was somewhat disillusioned when I started seeing that the church and its people were not only were they not living up to the standard of biblical principle, but it wasn't even a consideration. And that began to fracture something in me. And I know that there's this belief or this rhetoric of, oh, you follow God, you don't follow the man of God. Well, my thing is, if he doesn't have any type of standard, then let me be the preacher. Because if anybody can be the preacher, then let anybody be the preacher. I think we can do better than, some of the things that I was observing. So I'm going to try to make this video within this 10-minute time frame. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details of specific things, but I will share some major things that caused me to pink slip this entire church. I love people, okay? And because I love people and the way I love people, when they disappoint or behave in a way that's contrary to who they profess to be, in the past, it was very damaging to me. And, I just really wanted to be a part of something that was going to bring wholeness, well-being, progression to our community. And it was through my affiliation with religion and church. And, there were some things that, I saw, I observed that I did not like, and it rubbed me the wrong way. But I was willing to try to be that catalyst to bring about change. And I had started, our church was very small. It's probably like 60 people there, which I really liked the intimacy of it. And because it was so small, I ended up forming some very, close relationships with a number of people there, which made my decision to leave even more difficult, but necessary. So I remember seeing things happen that people around me were pretending like it wasn't happening. And looking back on it, and even when the fracture, when the fracture presented itself, I knew why people buried their heads in the sand. And I would say the primary reason why folk buried their heads in the sand was because, as I mentioned, this was a very small church. It was mostly senior citizens there. And I get that people are comfortable and set in their ways. And at a certain junction in life, you just don't want to switch things up. You don't want to have to start all over again. I understand that. But what I didn't understand was not holding leadership accountable. Okay? I attended a church that was black. It's hard to even say predominantly black because we probably had 2 or 3 white people there. So it was black. And it just so happens that one of the non-black persons there, the woman, was our pastor's wife. Now, let me preface this by saying that I am not a racist person. I know a lot of times racist people start off with, I am not a racist person. But I'm not a racist person. But what I am is a person that's going to ask questions. And I am that person that's going to ask very poignant questions, the right questions. So one of the things that, if you are familiar with black church rituals, because it's not even scriptural or biblical, they have this thing where they call the pastor's wife the first lady. And I never liked that. I really felt that it was a form of idolatry. I never liked that. And I didn't like it all the more for the simple fact that we were a black church with all these senior citizen women who probably marched in the civil rights era. And here you have this white woman who all these old black women are calling her first lady. I thought that was weird. I thought it was inappropriate. And I thought a lot of things. And what added insult to injury to me was the fact that she had an air about herself that she was entitled to our submissive, subservient posture. I didn't like that one bit. And I didn't like the way it came across the pulpit to almost like manipulate and guilt people into subscribing to this behavior. So I felt like that there was a great deal of manipulation coming across the pulpit to get people to behave in a certain way. And I recall another thing that I had angst with when it came to this whole first lady thing was that this particular person, the first lady, was lazy. And I know it's this thing of don't judge a book by its cover. You know what? There's some books I'm going to judge by that cover. And there's some books that I think we all should judge by its cover. And this whole thing of we're not supposed to judge, that is a fallacy. Because every day when we get up, we have to choose between right or wrong, righteousness, holiness. Those are all judgment calls. So I don't like when people try to, control me with, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Because we are called to make daily judgments. I see my time is marching on, so I think that this is actually going to be 3 parts, and I apologize for that. But I really want to, set the foundation as to the decisions that I made and why. So I ended up leaving this church after being there for, I'm going to say like 13 plus years. And I was in full service to this church. And I'll be right back talk about that a little more.